respected elders, educationists, language scholars, dear teachers and dear students, welcome. First of all, it is my kind request that those who have been subscribed our channel having the head Thirukural and Science may kindly subscribe it. Dear elders, teachers and students, today we are going to see the 5 couplets from 61 to 65. Under the chapter 7, getting virtuous and wise children. That is getting virtuous and wise children. That is the heading of the 7th chapter. See what Valluvan says about the children. What should be the characteristics, qualities of the children that we should feed them? And what are the duties of the children that they have to discharge for their parents and for the society in which they are a part. Come, let us see what the 5 couplets tell us. Thirukural. See, here I have used the letter ZL for the Tamil phoneme Il. That is, in Tamil we call it as Pudulagaram, Il. As this phoneme is not available in English, I have used the letters ZL. Thirukural. Comments and explanations and basis of science and virtue. 5 couplets from 61 to 66. Video 26. Dated 13/4/2023. Domestic virtue. Chapter 7. Having worthful children. Having worthful children. That is, children, the real wealth of parents. Having worthful children. Having virtuous and worthful children. That is the real wealth of children. Okay, let us see the first couplet. 61st couplet. Let us see what it tells us. Among our riches, our virtuous children are the greatest treasure. Among our riches, our virtuous children are the greatest treasure. Nothing else is greater than that unparalleled treasure. That is, among our riches, our virtuous children are the greatest treasure. Nothing else is greater than that unparalleled treasure. Okay, what does it mean? What is the core, the center core of this couplet? See, virtuous and wise children are the greatest wealth. It's among the riches, among the wealth that we get, virtuous and Wise children are the greatest wealth for the parents. See, the virtues and wise children, the greatest wealth of the parents. This is a message of the couplet. Let us see the explanation. The greatest wealth among the riches that we have to earn is earning virtuous and wise children. Earning virtuous and wise children. No riches is greater than that wealth. That is, the utmost duty of parents is feeding virtuous ways of life to their children and showing them the wise way of leading their life. The duty of the children is standing by virtue and leading a creative life. Again, the greatest wealth among the riches that we have to earn is earning virtuous and wise children. We have to earn virtuous children. Virtuous and wise children. No riches is greater than that wealth. That is, the utmost duty of parents is feeding virtuous ways of life to their children and showing them the wise way of leading their life. The duty of the children is standing by virtue and leading a great life. You see, among our riches, our virtuous children are the greatest treasure. Nothing else is greater than the unparalleled treasure. Dear elders and students, see, having, worthful children is not simply bearing the children. Having worthful children means, having worthful children doesn't mean simply bearing, giving birth to children. But it is growing them, raising them in the right way. Raising the children, that is growing the children, feeding them. What is virtue? How they should behave in life? What are the things they ought to know about human life? And the world of other things. What are the things they have to know? They have to learn. So these are the things that the parents should feed to their students. Feed to their children. It is not simply bearing them. The duty of the parents is not simply bearing the children. That is giving birth to the children. But raising them rightly, feeding them moral qualities to their children. So this is among our riches are virtuous children. How they would be virtuous? We should feed them. We should grow them in the right way of life. Then they would be virtuous. Then we should tell them to know, to learn the virtuous qualities, the moral qualities. They should learn and live accordingly. So these are the duty of the parents. And then the duty of the children is, leading a life according to the teaching of their parents. So parents are the first teachers. They should teach to their children what is moral, what is morality, what is virtue, and what are the things they ought to know regarding a human life. All these qualities parents should feed to their children. Then only the children will grow accordingly. Then they live a moral and notable life. earning name and fame to the parents. Okay. So, among our virtuous children are the greatest treasure. Nothing else is greater than that unparalleled treasure. Virtuous and wise children are the greatest wealth. See, here I would like to tell you my own understanding. See, according to myself, leading virtuous domestic life, sacrificing the entire life for the welfare of the society, and making virtuous and creative writings are the greatest wealth that a man has to earn. What is the greatest wealth? According to me, not only according to myself, but according to the view of the wise, according to the view of the great, leading virtuous domestic life, sacrificing the entire life for the welfare of the society, and making virtuous and creative writings are the greatest wealth that a man has to earn. Virtuous and wise children are the unparalleled souls adorning the greatness. So the greatest wealth is not having virtuous and great children. That is not the greatest wealth. The greatest wealth is leading a virtuous life and doing something for the society and making creative writings, just like Tirukural, Agananuru, Purananuru, that is things, writings, great writings. We should, those who make great writings or sacrifice their life for the welfare of the society and make great writings are living forever and forever. Even though by physically they deceased, by soul they are living forever. They will be living till the last day of the world. Yes, that is so according to the great. Living virtuous life and doing something for the welfare of the society and writing creative writings and making creative writings are the greatest wealth. The greatness of children simply adorn the greatness of children. The greatness of the children simply adorns the greatness. That is what I feel. Okay. Then, couplet 62. If we bring up our children well, sense any evil, no harm would attack our next generations 7 by ill. That is, if we bring up our children well, without any evil, sense means without any evil, no harm would attack our next generations 7 by ill. What is the message of this couplet? That is, if we bring up our children feeding right kinds of way of living, feeding right kinds of leading a life, feeding moral qualities, feeding their duties, and making them learn the worthful learnings they have to learn of human life. That is the way of bringing up our children rightly. Then no harm would attack our next 7 generations. If we bring up our children rightly, then no harm would attack our next 7 generations. Next 7 grandchildren, next 7 generations of our grandchildren. Next 7 generation means not only our children but our grandchildren's. No harm would attack them. That is, again, if we bring up our children rightly, feeding them virtue and moralities, then no harm would attack next 7 generations. This is the message of this 62nd couplet. Content. By virtuous children, 7 generations would flourish. By virtuous children, 7 generations would flourish. Explanation. If parents bring up their children feeding virtuous qualities, their next 7 generations will face no harm. That is, if parents raise their children rightly, feeding what is good and what is bad, they will grow right kind of children and lead virtuous and moral life. Then they will bring up their children in the right way. That is, according to science, the genetic qualities of parents, would be transferred to their next 7 generations. That is, according to science, the genetic qualities of parents would be transferred to their next 7 generations. That is why we say that a man takes 7 births. That is, the qualities that a man has got would be transferred to his next 7 generations, grandchildren. That is why you are telling that a man takes 7 births. Again, see, if we bring up our children rightly, feeding them the right qualities, the moral qualities, virtuous qualities they should have, then our children would raise their children, would grow their children in the right way. As we have raised our children would raise their children in the right way. Similarly, the good qualities of generations would be going on continuously. For our 7 generations, it would be going on. It would be transformed. That is why World One says, if we bring up all children well, without any evil, no harm would attack our next generation sons by ill. This construction is mine. It's mine. This couplet is mine. I have done it in English by the words of World One in Tamil. I got transformed into English, that's all. If you bring up all children well, the sons and evil, no harm would attack our next generations 7 by ill. Okay? By virtuous children, our 7 generations would flourish. This is the message of the couplet 62. Then 63. Couplet 63 tells us, what is it? Our children are our property. What is our property? Our children are our property. Their deeds would be their property. See, in this couplet 63, Verlugan says that our property is our children. The property of our children is their deeds. Our property is our children. Our children's property is their deeds. What is the meaning of it? That is, if we bring up our children rightly, and if they lead a worthful life, that would be our property. That would be our riches. That would be our wealth. That is, if we bring up our children rightly and make them to lead a right way of life, and if they lead a right way of life, that alone would be our property. That is our children. Our children are our property means we should bring up them rightly and make them to lead a moral life. There should be having some meaning. And That kind of wealth is our property. But what is the property of our children? Being virtuous, doing things rightly, according to morality and virtue of the society, according to the morality and virtue of the society, doing things and earning not only material properties, material things, but also the immaterial things of name and fame. Leading a virtuous and moral life and earning not only material riches, but also of the name and fame from the society is the greatest wealth. So, bearing and growing our children rightly is our property. Then, being virtuous and leading a virtuous life, doing things and earning things would be our children's property. That is the message of this poem. Content, our wealth is our children. Their wealth is their virtue and hard work. I will simply give the meaning here. I have fully explained. Then explanation. Our wealth is our children. Their wealth is their riches. Their wealth is their riches earned by virtuous and honest and hard work. I have already explained. Our wealth is our children. It is bringing them right here. Bringing up them right here. Their wealth is their riches earned by virtue and honesty and hard work. That is, when we get worthful children, we become rich. That is, when we bring up our children worthful, when we make our children worthful, we become rich. When we bring up our children worthful, we become rich. But our children become rich when they are virtuous and work hard. We say our riches, we become rich when we bring up our children rightly. Our children become rich when they lead a virtuous life, working hard. That's all. Again, our children are our property. Yes, bearing children and bringing them up rightly is our property. Being virtuous and doing things rightly, morally, being virtuous and doing things in the moral way is the property of their children. You see, in the first three couplets, 61, 62 and 63, see, Valluvan has described not only the duty of the children, but the duty of the parents. The duty of the parents as well as the duty of the children have been explained, have been described by Valluvan in the three couplets, 61, 62 and 63. What in the 64 and 65th couplets Valluvan says. See, the 64 is very, very important and an interesting couplet. What is honey? What is honey? The simple registered by our infants' tender hands would tell many. You see, what is honey? The simple ragi food stirred by our infants' tender hands would tell many. What is honey? The ragi food stirred the tender hands of our children would tell many. It is the simple food of ragi stirred by our dearest children would be sweeter than honey. the simplest food of ragi, stirred by the tender hands of our children, would be sweeter than honey. Nothing is, and nothing could be so sweet as the ragi stirred by the tender hands of our children. That is the message of this poem. Then see the things that I have given here. Content. The gruel of ragi stirred by our infants' tender hands is sweeter than nectar. It is the gruel of ragi stirred by our infants' tender hands is sweeter than nectar. Explanation. The simple gruel of ragi stirred by our infants' tender hands would be sweeter than nectar. That is, among the sweets we feel, the sweetness of honey is the sweetest. Among the sweets we feel, the sweetness of honey is the sweetest. Superlative. But the sweetness of the simplest, not simple, the simplest gruel of ragi, the sweetness of the simplest gruel of ragi, stirred by the tender hands of our infants, is sweeter than that nectar. Is sweeter. That is the simplest ragi, stirred by the tender hands of our children, is the sweetest thing in the world. Is the sweetest thing in the world. That is the message. Okay? Yes. Again, what is honey? The simplest ragi stirred by our children, by the little hands of children, would tell many. What is honey? That a ragi stirred by children would tell many. It is greater. It is greater. Whatever that is here, world one tells the pleasure a man, the pleasure parents feel. I mean, when they take their children themselves, when they tender their children, it is expressed in this way. The pleasure the parents feels. I mean, the pleasure that parents feels is expressed by Vallabhan here, because he has already felt that. There is why he is able to describe it in such a beautiful way. Because he might have experienced it in his life. So, that's again the simplest ragi food stirred by the tender fingers of our children is the sweetest thing in the world. Then let us see the 65th couplet. It is another interesting thing that Vallabhan has felt. So what he has felt, he says, the touch of our infants would our body delight. The touch of our infants would our body delight. That is when we embrace the body of our children, we would feel what is a delight. When we embrace the touch of our infants would our body delight. That is, when we embrace the body of our children, we would feel what is a delight. The prattle of our infants would our ears delight. That is, we would feel the pleasure of things. We would feel pleased when we hear the prattle of our infants. the bread of our infants. There is the language they bore out, which will be having no meaning at all. But it will be highly pleasing our ears. I mean, the languages our children pour out would be having no meaning at all. The words they are pouring out would be having no meaning. That is because the prattle would be having no meaning at all. But the voice they bore out would be pleasing our ear. So, their touch would please our body, would delight our body, and their voice, the prattle there, I mean, meaningless voice, meaningless language would please our ear. That is the message of this. The touch of our infants would our body delight. The prattle of our infants would our ears delight. Content of infants' touch would tell us what is a delight. Our infants' prattle would inform us what is pleasure. See, what is delight and what is pleasure are informed to us, to every parents, are informed to every parents by their children. Their touch would tell us what is a delight. Meaningless language, prattle would tell us what is pleasure. Explanation. When we embrace and kiss our infants, it would delight our body. When we hear their prattle, it would please our ears. That is, the touch of our pretty infants would tell us what is a delight, whereas their prattle would inform us what is pleasure. Their body would tell us what is a delight. Only touching their body, we feel what is a delight. Only hearing their prattle, we feel what is pleasure. That's actually it is. What he has experienced in his life is informing us. That is okay. Again, the touch of our infants would our body delight. The touch of our infants would our ears delight. Our infants would tell us what is a delight. Our infants' touch would tell us what is a delight. Our infants' prattle would inform us what is pleasure. Okay, come. Dear elders, education is teachers and students. Thus we have seen in the first three couplets, 61, 62 and 63, World 1 tells us, informs us, what is the duty of the parents and what is the duty of the children. The duty of the parents is not simply bearing the children, that is, giving birth to the children. Bearing means giving birth to the children, but bringing them up rightly, building them moral qualities, feeding them what they should do and what they should not do. All these things should be fed to the children by the parents. That is their duty. And children brought up in that way are their wealth. So what is the duty of the students? Children. They should rightly learn the lessons taught by their parents, because parents are the first teachers. Every children should learn the lessons taught by their parents, and they should lead their life according to the lessons taught by their parents. That is their duty. Then the wealth of the parents is having the virtuous and wise children, and the wealth of our children is their way of being, and their way of doing things, and earning name and fame from the society, and earning material things. These are their duty and wealth of both parents and children. Have been explained well, have been described well. Now also in the last, in the couplet 64 and 65, one tells, what are the pleasure and delight? What are the pleasure and delight? Every parents feel, say, the simplest ragi food stirred by the tender and dirty fingers of the children is the sweetest food in the world. Is the sweetest sweet in the world. Regarding every parents, and how they feel delight, how they feel the meaning of delight, how parents feel the meaning of delight. When they embrace their children, they feel what is a delight. The embracement of their children brings them the meaning of delight. Likewise, what is pleasure? The meaningless prattle, that is the meaningless language. The meaningless prattle of their children tells them what is pleasure. What is the pleasure to the ear? So in the last 64 and 65, it tells us what parents feels delighted, what they feel sweet, what they feel delight, what they feel pleasure, sort of things. It is applicable to all parents, and I had to tell my granddaughters and grandsons, you would be feeling it in your life in course of time. But now, dear granddaughters and grandsons, as daughters and sons now learn the valuable teachings, lessons taught to you by your parents. Learn the valuable lessons regarding human life taught by your parents. Then do things wisely, virtuously, and be virtuously. Be useful not only yourself, not only to your parents, but to the society. Be virtuous. Do things virtuously. Be useful to the society. And make great writings. Learn great writings and make great writings. You can stand forever only by our sacrifice and dedication that you do for the society, and by the great writings that tells what is virtue and what is morality to the world. By that alone, you could stand forever. Okay. Dear, respected elders and educationists, dear teachers and students, I thank all of you for watching these, watching my explanations and description for the 5 couplets from 61 to 65. We will meet in the next class. Thank you.